I'm Stacy Esser with the Stacy Esser Group, and thank you so much for watching. I'm sitting here with Michael Amendola of All Points Inspection. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me, Stacy.
So we are going to be launching a all things home inspection series because it's a serious topic in residential real estate.
Yes.
And you and I have been working together for
Probably 2 or 3 years
2 or
now.
3 years.
Maybe longer.
Maybe longer. We won't tell. So we're going to start the first part of our home inspection series by answering a question, which is, what question do you ask when you're interviewing a home inspector? So Mike, help us out here.
Okay. So let's clear up the typical first question is how long you've been doing this. That's a very common question to ask. Now, experience in years doing this certainly helps, but I think also what is important is, depending on the type of house that you're looking to buy,
Right.
does that inspector have experience with that type of construction? And what I mean by that is, we all do a basic same training as far as schooling and
Right.
test taking, but beyond that, it's up to the individual inspector's personal experience.
So wait, let me ask you a question just to make sure everybody understands. So in order to be an inspector in the state of New Jersey, you need to be licensed.
Correct.
Okay. And now you were saying that there may be some additional coursework or qualifications that would add to somebody's resume?
Correct. For example, housing styles continually change. So what's built today doesn't necessarily conform to standards from 30 years ago, and from 30 years ago doesn't conform to standards 100 years ago.
Okay.
A perfect example is if you want to ask your inspector if you're buying a home that's old or
Maybe Victorian. Right.
or something post pre-1900s,
Right,
for
right.
example. Well, there's certain factors. Those houses follow different standards in all respects, as far as structural, mechanicals, plumbing, electrical.
So let me ask you this. As a realtor, we have to do continuing education. So we have to continue our education so that we can remain licensed.
Mm-hmm.
Does the same thing hold true for inspectors?
It does apply. A home inspector in New Jersey has to do 40 hours continuing ed every 2 years, but there's not a specific course load they have to take for that. So, for example, where some of the continuing ed might be a class on new plumbing techniques or new types of heating system, it doesn't necessarily backtrack on what you know on an older home or your experience
Right.
out in the field. So that's up to the individual inspector, and they might get that experience either from their previous job, maybe
Right.
working construction or working as a plumber.
So we talked about experience being the number one question, and now what would you say the second one is?
Communication.
Okay. So how do you communicate with your clients during and after the inspection?
Okay. So my approach is I believe in hands-on, having people follow me on the inspection.
Okay.
We all issue a report. Truth be told, not everybody reads through the report thoroughly, so I find it advantageous that when I have the people following me on site, that if I do find an issue, or if I just find something they should know for future maintenance, I could point it out directly to them. So,
Right. So you're saying, what I think I hear you saying is that the communication is very fluid, that you have, that you literally are teaching them and guiding them as you're going through the house.
Yes.
And you're pointing out to them things that could be fixed, don't need to be fixed, or should be fixed.
Well, exactly.
Right.
And redundancy and long-windedness or lengthiness, which I'm pretty good at, I find helps to increase the understanding. A house it's a big purchase is a big.
Yeah, it's a big
Big to do-
investment,
big investment
and
to do.
especially I think when you're dealing with first-time home buyers, or maybe when you have the home purchaser there with a parent. And so we'll leave some of that for the next series. But
Right.
communication, and then your communication continues after you've delivered the report.
Correct. So we leave a line open if somebody has to follow up with questions or concerns, or
Right.
just basically forgets what we talked about or
Right.
didn't understand the report. So
Right.
yes, information is good in that sense.
Okay, that's great. So we have experience, which includes qualifications, and now we have your communication and style of it, and making sure that you feel comfortable, right, with the person that's helping you. And then I think another one everybody asks is, how much does it cost?
Good question, and quite honestly, it varies. There's no set template, but most inspectors base cost on size of the home,
Right.
age, the amount of mechanicals. Do you have one central air system or your house with 5?
Can you give me a range for like a 4-bedroom house? How about 4-bedroom house? So how does an inspector factor cost?
Okay, there's several variables. Most typically, the square footage of the house.
Okay.
Other factors that are involved with it are the age of the house. Is it a 100-year-old house or a newer construction? And some other items taken into consideration is the mechanicals. Is there one central air system or 5?
Right. So basically, I think what you're saying is there's a multitude of factors that play into how much it's going to cost.
Yes,
And-
yes.
yeah.
And there's ancillary services too. When we get involved in a home inspection, there's the building inspection, but quite typically there's also termite inspections involved.
So let me ask about that. So when somebody is again asking or interviewing a home inspector, they might say to you, what other inspections do you suggest? And what other licenses do you have? Is that a question they should be asking?
Yes, absolutely, because those might entail additional fees. Some inspectors may roll it into their initial fee, others might charge additional. Some inspectors farm out their radon testing and their
So
termite
let's stop.
inspection.
So let's explain. So when we do when there's a home inspection done, there's the general home inspection, and then there are specialized parts that are typically additional.
Correct.
And sometimes the home inspector will be licensed to do more than one type of inspection.
Correct.
So other inspections that we suggest that our buyers get would be, first of all, they'd have, it's not an inspection, but it's a tank sweep, an oil tank sweep, right? So that's number one. And another one would be a pest, termite, carpenter ants inspection. So that's
Basically wood destroying insects.
wood destroying insects. Thank you. That's a good one. We always ask for a radon test, which is common in Bergen County. And essentially, it comes up from the ground and you test for how much there is, and it's allowable at a certain level, and above that, it needs to get remediated, right?
Right.
What am I missing there? Is there another one? Wait, you know what? People are now doing a lot of sewer testing.
Sewer line, actually.
Sewer lines.
Yes. And also in relationship with the sewage, if you have a septic system, that should be
That's true.
definitely inspected by a licensed or insured septic inspector.
So you personally, what are you licensed to do outside of the general inspection?
My business, I do the building inspection. I'm also licensed for wood destroying insect
Okay.
and radon testing.
And do you find that should it matter to a buyer if the inspector that they're interviewing has more than one license or not?
Why would you should think about where it's, again, it goes back to experience. I happen to do my own termite inspection because my inspection business evolved out of my construction business, which I basically used to specialize in termite repair and structural damage. So I have experience with that. So it's, again, find the comfort level with your inspector.
But either way, so if an inspector does or doesn't, it shouldn't matter.
It shouldn't matter. In New Jersey, all ancillary services, whether it be radon testing, termite inspection,
Right.
or all carry separate license and insurance. So just
Okay.
make sure your inspector is licensed in all those
all those
inspections. Yes.
So we had, I think we mentioned the septic, obviously if you have a pool, right?
Pool's another one.
And
yes.
what about generators?
Generators? What I would do with generators, a home inspector does not operate a generator. Would first and foremost, if somebody does have a generator, ask if they do have a service contract on already,
Okay.
because they should be checked once a year to make sure the system does engage when it's necessary.
Got it.
Often the electrician that installed it will do service contracts. Some generators now are self-testing, self-diagnostic.
Perfect. So we are, and then I think we also just touched briefly on the sewer lines.
Yes.
So that's come up quite a bit because, you know, we when a sewer line bursts, it's expensive and it's super expensive. There's a lot of clay lines that still exist, right? And then
Clay and cast iron, which will separate underground.
when we first bought our house, we and before we did a renovation, our children were flushing paper cups
Okay.
down
Not good.
the sink, and apparently, you know, we had to fix the sewer line
Sure.
very soon after that, so that wasn't fun.
So, yes. The
That
other
was expensive, and we thought that the public company would take care of it, and
they don't.
they don't
They
take
don't.
care of it. So I'm going to give everybody one tip. I know you want to say something.
Yes.
Get insurance for the sewer line because it's inexpensive and it'll cover you. Well, go ahead.
You know, going back to the sewer line, you should, especially an older home. Now, check with your agent, or if you're buying from a builder, on some new construction or most new construction.
Right.
When I'm talking thorough new construction from foundation up, they will often have to change the water line to the street, or they will change the sewer line. But it's not always the case.
Not always the case,
especially
yeah.
now with a lot of these so-called flips or reno resales,
Right.
you may be buying what you think is a new home from the ground up.
And you wouldn't know to
below.
ask for that. So the water line and the sewer line we should ask questions about.
Absolutely.
And they could put cameras in there. And also because we have so many trees, so the roots will, right?
Roots can grow into
Yeah.
the seams of the cast iron. Yeah, it's not an expensive or difficult process to have the sewer line inspected, and it's definitely recommended on older
Recommended.
sewer lines. Yes.
Okay, so, and I love that you said ask the question, even if you're buying new construction or renovated, ask the question.
Information. It's the single biggest purchase you're going to have. Ask your inspector. Talk to your realtor's an expert. They probably know more about the house to anybody until the inspector gets in there.
But I think the point of this is that we make sure that people know what to ask.
Yes.
So what we were able to talk about today in the first part of our home inspection series were what questions you should be asking when you're interviewing a home inspector. So we covered that. We also talked a little bit about what other ancillary inspections and licenses that a home inspector can have and what kind of other inspections you would be getting or asking to get when you're purchasing a home. I think the only one that we didn't mention was the fireplace, right?
Yes.
So do you think that a fireplace inspection, a chimney inspection is important?
Yes. It's right in line with the sewer line inspection. A home inspector can't see inside the flue just like can't see in the sewer line, and the older the chimney, they don't get better. And there's issues with heating systems, age, materials that, yes, could present a costly problem in the future if not inspected.
We find that chimneys, when they come up in an inspection, it's trouble. We're going to talk about that. It's trouble. It's definitely something that can end up costing quite a lot of money because, again, it goes back to maybe what was okay several years ago is no longer okay, and that comes up a lot with our inspections. Is it grandfathered in? Is it okay to keep it? Does it have to be replaced? We're gonna kind of pick your brain on some stuff in the next part of our home inspection series. So stay tuned for part 2 of our home inspection series with Michael Amendola. He's the founder, owner, chief operating officer of All Points Inspection, 20 years of experience giving us his time, and I'm so thankful, and hopefully everybody
Pleasure
will
to
stay
be
tuned. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stacy.